Welcome, Rinkcast, to season 3, episode 25 of the-rink.com's Blackhawks Rinkcast, live from the COVID-19 studios in the quarantine bubble. Today is Saturday, October 10th, an unusual time, place and time, I should say. It's 10-10-20. I'm your host, Jeff Osborn, infamously known on the Twitter machines as Puck and Hostel.
Y'all need to take a hit of this Jeffrey. It'll calm you down.
And today, we might as well get right into it. It's a trade reaction episode to what's going on here with the Blackhawks. We figured might as well, if anyone was home not doing anything, it was a bunch of guys at the rink. So I figured we'd get us all together and
loser.
Yeah. We would get on here and we'll talk a little bit about this. Aaron Goldschmidt got me a little bit earlier for his podcast, and he got me wound up with a little bit of a reaction thing going on. So I figured why not just get right into it and get everybody's immediate reaction. So I have Andy Campbell at the top. He's going to be writing more about the Rockford Ice Hogs is going forward, but he's put out a lot of really good analysis articles lately. So that's good stuff. And we have Sean Fitzgerald from our staff that's going to be writing more Indy Fuel stuff coming up and stuff of that sort. You've probably seen him around. And I don't know, the guy with the long hair at the bottom, he kind of just stumbled in. I don't know what's going on, but I think his name is John Jaeckel. And I think you guys all know who he is, but so just I don't need to go into my rant right away. Andy, how about you start us off with what you think about this thing, this trade? First of all, the trade is Brandon Saad and Dennis Gilbert. Blackhawks retain $1 million of Brandon Saad, and they get Nikita Zadorov and Lindholm. Forgot his last name or his first name, but defenseman
Anton Lindholm.
Anton Lindholm back. And Zadorov has already signed a deal, an RFA deal. He's going to get the same thing he made last year at minimum, but that's what he's going to get is $3.2 million. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, my original reaction, I mean, I've been as unstable as the average Hawk fan, tonight so far. I've been doing a lot of walking around my living room, pacing, stressed out, wondering, that's all we got for Brandon Saad. I mean, those are your initial thoughts, right? I mean, that is the first thing that comes to mind is you picture Brandon Saad and you think about 2013, you think about 2015, you're like, this is one of our guys. This is a cup producing hockey player, period. And the loyalists, if you're a Chicagoan, that's where you're at. The bottom line, Brandon Saad is a very good hockey player. He is. He's a terrific hockey player. Is he a top 6 guy on a cup contending team right now? You can argue both sides for that. You really can. Did he fall into the right place in the right time with the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013 and 2015 and those cup runs? He probably did. However, big asset, huge asset. In a perfect world, when I envisioned Saad being traded, I thought it was going to be picks, a legit prospect, maybe a first rounder and a legit prospect and maybe a player to be named later or something of that fabric. I think most Chicago fans right now are they're probably scratching their heads because they're Googling Nikita Zadorov and Anton Lindholm. They're saying, wait, who are these guys? Wait a minute. Saad's one of us. We just moved him and for 2 guys we don't know of. But then when you backtrack, when you think, when you start to process it a little bit, and obviously JJ was very helpful with me in this regard, as he always is saying, okay, well, maybe there was value for value here. You lost Ole Mata. You made a point to move away from Ole Mata's salary and just say, you know what, maybe this isn't the guy that is going to be here for a while. Yeah, he was their best defenseman during the playoff run. That is clear. But when you traded him and when you traded his salary, you said, is this part of our future? He's not. Were they very weak on defensemen after that move was made? And then, they decided not to bring back Corey Crawford. Yeah, it was, you're looking at the blue line and you're looking at the goaltender. You're going, this is going to be a really, really hard year for everybody. Does Zadorov help in that sense? He does. He'll come in and he'll play. And he'll be helpful. But and you got him for maybe, one more year, and then he's an RFA, and then you can decide what to do with him. And you kind of have control in that contract in that sense. That might not be a terrible thing. And it's really going to be make or break for a lot of these Blackhawk defensive prospects right now. I mean, we're going to see if these kids can play, especially if the goaltending, you're saying we're going to roll out with Subban, Dahlia, and Lankinen. Those are our guys. If that's what you're doing goaltending wise, and you're really testing to see, if these defensemen can play or not. Am I thrilled about the return? No, I'm not. There's a part of me that would have wanted to wait to see the Blackhawks absolutely implode in 2021. And then at the trade deadline, all of a sudden it's Saad is commanding a first rounder plus. And I think that could have been very realistic. At the same time, Stan is, it sounds like, and I don't know Stan Bowman, obviously. I don't know his brain. I wish any of us could know the way his mind works. Call me if someone figures that out. But at the same time, it's clearly cost savings. And if this impending blow up is going to happen, I don't know. Maybe this isn't terrible. It's all speculative right now. We'll see who these guys are when they show up, but it's hard. You go through 1 week and you lose Crow and you lose Brandon Saad. And I'm as much
and
Olimata, but it's the Saad and the Crow factor. And I'm as much of a fan as anyone else, who was sitting there and, in game 6 in 2015 in the 300 level with my dad and bawling my eyes out, being like, I cannot believe I've just watched them win their 3rd cup. And so when those guys move on, yeah, that hurts. And to have it all in 1 week, that's tough. And to not exactly know what the return is, I get it why people feel like they've been robbed right now.
Yep.
But we got
to come here and find you playing hee-haw with the fuck around game.
That's pretty much how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny, what do you think?
So I'm this is how crazy it gets. I'm like the guy who's being the Stan Bowman apologist here. And the only thing I would say about it is I think a couple things. One, I think Bowman, and this is not a good thing, I think Bowman is still trying to walk that line of be competitive this year, but also do things for the future. I also think that they're trying to cut salary, and I'm hoping that is part of that's leading to other moves that could help this team. But I also think that, somebody on Twitter had a really good comment. I forget who it was, but said that, maybe the Hawks have their own internal salary cap that they're trying to hit, which is lower than the NHL salary cap in terms of making money, knowing that their revenues are down and they're going to be down possibly even more this year. So I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's the right way to run the franchise. I do think that the franchise has become extremely focused on the bottom line and on, revenues and costs. And, unfortunately, I feel like that may even be getting in the way of the necessary rebuilding moves. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen if they move Saad, get some picks and prospects. I've been the guy beating the picks and prospects drum like nobody's business. All that said, I've heard people say, well, these guys can't be part of the rebuild. I don't know. They're 25-year-old defensemen, both of whom have some value, more so as defensive defensemen, both of whom are very physical. And those are things that have been missing on this defense. So, I don't know if they got everything that they should get for Saad, but at the same time, I'm going to say my jury's a little bit out on this deal. Again, but I think part of the problem is, and why they're going for a couple of 25-year-old defensemen, is they're trying to do things that are going to help them compete this year and make the team better this year. And it could. If these two guys help suppress shots and less pucks go in the back of the net, although with Malcolm Subban, if you're number one, you got another problem. But I don't know. I want to see if there's any other moves. I want to see if they could go out maybe and get a young true number one goalie via trade. I still think that's possible. I don't know if they'll pull it off, but I'm just going to say my jury's out on this.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen my my background here, I've got Stan's draft board and it still fits up. Kind of went away there. Small puck moving D-men, long-term high-risk projects, 6th or 7th round goalie that never pans out, mid-draft, insignificant position moves, bunch of guys that flame out and disappear, re-sign a bunch of former Hawks, and trade guys for little or nothing. So he hit the bottom one there, trade guys for little or nothing. He's doing well there. I mean, honestly, sure, Zadorov is maybe a replacement for Alimata. Okay. Do you save a whole lot of money on it? No, not really. You get a couple of years off of the end of the deal. And for Brandon Saad, I mean, basically you're paying $4.2 million for him because you're retaining $1 million of Brandon Saad's salary. So you're paying more or just about as much for as you would for Alimata. Is he better than Alimata? It's debatable. I really don't know. I can't say. From what Aaron says, and he's here somewhere, I know he's lurking in the background here, but he's probably not going to speak. But from what Aaron says, the one thing he likes to do is he likes to run around and hit people, and he throws a lot of big hits. So if that's going to, make Blackhawks fans happy, then maybe that's going to make Blackhawks fans happy. But I don't think it doesn't make the team any better. Losing Brandon Saad, losing Alimata, losing Corey Crawford makes the team considerably worse for next year,
So,
whether Zadorov or comes here or not.
So what are they doing? So my thing, Gate, is, so what are they doing? Like, what are we doing? Because you walk away from Corey Crawford for he got $3.9 million. You walk away from him. So you're considerably worse off in that position. Then you trade Alimata, and you bring in 25-year-old defensemen. So, like, to John's point, are you towing that line still, or are you rebuilding? Because this in between is not going to do anything for him. I'm sorry. Like, if you look at how the franchise got to the 3 cups, they were awful. They got the first pick, they got the 3rd pick, they got high draft picks. That's how you win in professional sports. You need to draft and develop guys. Now, I have very little faith in Stan Bowman's ability to trade. I think he's terrible at trades. There's more losses than there are wins in recent history. He hasn't got value for Brandon Saad the 3 times he's been involved with him. And then drafting, I was looking at some of his prior drafts. Granted, we didn't have high picks, but like 2015, there's no guys in the organization that even played a game in the NHL. Like, yeah. I don't think he has the ability to identify talent. So I'm just confused by the whole thing. Like, well,
I saw a thing but today, and I retweeted, and it's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, but Ryan Hardy, the GM of the Chicago Steel, yeah, he wrote it today, and he said something about how you're supposed to be drafting people that you think will develop into NHL players,
right?
And it doesn't seem like they're doing that. They're just picking guys who are good, highly ranked in the draft or whatever, but they're not projecting them out. They're not drafting and developing players. They don't develop players. If it's not a guy like Kirby Dach, who's legit NHL talent right off the bat, that just basically steps right in the NHL. Brandon Saad, sure, he spent a little bit of time in the AHL, and it may have helped him, but that's not really true development. True development would be, a 2, maybe 2.5 years in Rockford, maybe even longer than that. Development is not, sending Brian Campbell to London to stand behind Adam Boqvist and whisper in his ear all the time. That's not development either.
The reality of it is that Stan Bowman has never had to do that. So I don't think he probably doesn't know how. I mean, I don't want to be too critical of anybody, but at the same time, I mean, look at the club that he inherited when Talon moved on. I mean, he has not had to assess and develop talent, period.
All he had to do was adjust at the fringes of the roster. That's all
sign
he really had to do.
Sign a few free agents and get a supporting cast. I mean, that is pretty much what he had to do to make sure that the team became a winner.
I want to steal a point that JJ's made. The people that are carrying this team right now are still people that were drafted and developed by Dale Talon.
Yep, exactly.
100%.
Hold on. I just want to say one thing really quick. We're not advocating and saying Dale Talon is some great general manager. What he did with the Blackhawks was pretty good. And he developed. Yeah, what he did afterwards or anything since, is not, relevant right now. What it is he drafted a handful of guys, and Corey Crawford up until now was one of them as well.
Right.
That he drafted and developed and brought through the system.
Right.
And Stan did not. And those are the guys still carrying this team over a decade later.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, it's identical to Scotty's run when, Detroit was winning cups in the late 90s, where it was, Yzerman and Lindstrom were already there. Spare parts needed to be added. And that's when guys like Malpe and Draper, and McCarty and those guys were kind of just thrown into the mix that were, and I also think that's part of Stan's problem too, is he thinks he's going to strike gold with some of those no names, where you think of guys like Chris Draper that was picked up for $1 from the Winnipeg Jets, for Detroit. I mean, is that what he was thinking when he, went after Alex Nylander, and it's just kind of like, I'm going to find these diamonds in a rough and people will understand, exactly what I'm doing here.
He doesn't have to be smarter than everybody. He just has to be smart.
It just has to be practical.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
I'm still like trading Yoki Haru for Nylander was I think that was more driven by Jeremy Colleton than Stan Bowman. You look at Yoki Haru's time on the ice after Joe Quenneville was let go and Jeremy Colleton came in as coach. It was he didn't play, and then he went down to Rockford, and they sent him over to the World Junior Championships. So I think that was driven by Jeremy Colleton. That said, I don't understand, like, if you're going to rebuild, like, tear it all down. Like, if you're going to rebuild, don't bring me defensemen that can help out for the current team. Bring me, like you guys said, picks, draft picks, assets, something that you have a plan you're going to build around, or you're going to be so bad that you're in the lottery that you have the best chance to get the number 1 pick. We're going to play half and half, and we're going to try to keep fans engaged because we've got we're going to come out and see Kane and Taves. We're going to wear all our Hong Kong classics and go to the United Center when we actually can go there. Like, it's like,
nailed it.
The Hong Kong classics. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I know you love
Hong Kong
phrase.
classics.
So I'm still trying to like I don't think he's good at evaluating talent. He's going to reacquire Brandon Saad at some point too. Like, can we write that down? Like, Kublik's going for Brandon Saad, or
So one thing I'll tell you guys, and Gate, you may remember this, but like, I'm going to say 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I reported a rumor the Hawks were trying to get, it was part of a bigger deal. Marcus Kruger was going the other way, and they wanted to get Anton Lindholm back. And so they've had their eyes on him for 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to blow anybody away with his offense, although he can pitch in, but he is a guy who plays really good defense, and he can be physical too. And like I said, I mean, listen, just because Stan Bowman falls in love with the player, we know that's no badge of honor. But one thing I will say is they've had their eye on this guy for a few years. So, maybe they feel like if they bring him in and they use him the right ways and give him an opportunity, that he could really blossom as the kind of stay-at-home defender that they're going to need, because this could very much be about who are the guys who are going to play with Mitchell and play with Boqvist and kind of anchor those guys. Yeah. Because Duncan Keith is not going to be around forever. He may not be around after this season, frankly. And Calvin DeHaan is one more shoulder injury away from being done. And I think
the one-armed man from The Fugitive.
Yeah, right. I think actually these deals may be about finding the playing partners for these young puck-moving, right-hand shooting defensemen that the Hawks have either here or on their way. You may want to view it that way. Again, I'm not saying it was smart. I'm not saying it'll work out, but that could be why they targeted these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, maybe these are kind of the assets that they need. Defensive defensemen, and that's fine. That's all good and well. But if you're going to give up Brandon Saad, you need to get more than that. Brandon Saad is more valuable than that, honestly. And I was telling Aaron this on his podcast. Like, Brandon Saad, you can move him up and down the lineup. He could play PK. He could play the power play. He could sit in front of the net. He's faster than you really give him. A lot of people might give him credit for. He will blast around the outside of a player. He's like a dollar store version of Taylor Hall. That's the way I looked at him. Like, he could do everything and probably some things better than Taylor Hall, but he's not necessarily the scorer Taylor Hall is. You know, he's very valuable, and
he kills penalties too.
And you just got a couple of guys like Zadorov, like that guy was expendable to the Colorado. So is Lindholm. Lindholm's been playing a majority of his time in the AHL.
Yeah, that's true.
Because these guys are just expendable. They're guys that you just give away. They got nothing. And they're eating salary on it on top of it. Like, he's doing everyone favors. No one's doing him favors, but he's doing everyone else favors. So I just, by accepting Brad Morrison for Ali Mata, that was doing LA a favor, giving him a competent defenseman that could play in the NHL for a guy who may play for Indy this year.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't know what Zadorov makes, and I'm sure Lindholm is making like 700,000 or something like that. I mean, but the sense I got just in my quick blush look at it was that they were saving money. And if you look at that move and you look at the Mata move, and the Crawford move for that matter, especially if they stick with Subban and whoever, these are all money saving moves, and it may go back to their desire to, and who knows, maybe they're saving some money to make a bigger move. I don't know. I doubt it. I think they're looking at a really upside down revenue situation. And I think it's worse than is being publicized. I think that people are not aware of how soft ticket demand has become. But it's bad. And then the corporate sponsorship side of things too. It's not good. The glory days have been over for a while, and the money's been heading for the doors for longer than just the last year.
And honestly, I mean, you mentioned cost savings. They're not saving that much.
No,
Dorov's got a 1-year contract. Saad had a 1-year contract. You're retaining $1 million of that Saad contract, so he's technically making $500,000 or $5 million, and you add that on to Zadorov's contract, and that's $4.2 million. So you're saving what,
$800,000?
Yeah.
I mean,
all this, you're moving all this talent to save $800,000. Come on.
But all the same to JJ's point. I mean, it's like we all get those emails about season tickets and whatnot, and I mean, now it is cost saving mode for the NHL and probably for the DMs. And I don't, and I even wonder too, I mean, at the same time, like Saad is going to go to Colorado and he might just light it up. I mean, look at the personnel he's going to be around, and look at the kind of young team he's going to be around. And that's how we've known him as his best. And I don't know like how other GMs value him in that regard. I mean, he's not the kind of player that's going to go out there and make other players better. I mean, there have been times where he's been on the ice where he's been virtually invisible. In the dark days of, this pseudo rebuild mode that we're kind of in and we're kind of not. So I don't know. I mean, Stan might just felt like, let's just unload now and just get out of this thing now so we don't have to deal with it in case it gets even worse. And it'll be really interesting. I mean, I was hoping the return would be better. I'll be the first one to admit that. I wanted picks. I thought at least a first round pick.
Yeah. Or a second, any pick.
Or a second or anything in the future. And, but at the same time, I mean, we're looking at young defenders who need to play with young players, and, it will be make or break time for some of these prospects to figure out what they're going to do. And they're going to need to be saddled with some semi, season D in that sense. So I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? It's crazy.
Do you think Brandon Saad's value has gone down? So, I mean, Artemi Panarin was traded for Brandon Saad, 2 years ago? And before that, we got Artem Anisimov for him. We got legitimate NHL players that fill holes.
You tell me what Brandon Saad's value is as a 20-goal, $6 million player. I mean, you tell me.
I think in Colorado, though, he's going to be their Swiss Army knife. He's going to be a guy.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
And he's going to do the dirty work. Like, he can go win the puck in the corner, and he's
100%. But if you're dealing with Stan Bowman and you're dealing with the Chicago Blackhawks, you don't need to give up a ton.
Right.
I don't. you can get away with murder. You
Actually,
know
I
how
wanna
strapped
say-
they are.
I think Bowman panicked and he traded. There had to be more value out. There had to be some sort of value out there, and I don't think.
Actually,
I
wanna
don't
say
know if he just targeted like we want young defensemen that don't cost us as much money, and this is the first deal that was thrown in his lap or something. I don't know.
John, I know you. I can see you ready to say something.
No, I just want to say, and this is that I don't think a lot of Hawk fans are going to feel good about. I had the opportunity to spend a little time with Saad a couple of years ago with my son, and he's a great guy, and I feel like Hawk fans have not really appreciated him maybe as much as they should have. I mean, unfortunately, Andy makes a good point. He's not like a guy who's going to lead your scoring or put the team on the back and carry them, but as a quality complementary player on a good team, he fits the role. He does a lot of things. He'll go and work along the wall. And I mean, people forget he was part of the best line in hockey in 2015, but now he had two Hall of Famers with him on that line. But I think he's going to a really good situation in Colorado. I mean, because he's going in there as a guy with 2 Stanley Cup rings and a lot of really good leadership quality. So he's going to be a really nice add to that dressing room and to that team. And again, I know that won't make Hawk fans feel better, but any of us who have a soft spot for Brandon Saad, you got to feel good for him. It's going into a great situation. Yeah. Again, that doesn't make it work out any better for the Hawks, certainly, but that's another way of looking at this too.
And I thought, Aaron asked what could Colorado see out of Brandon Saad, and I said, easily, you put him with the right players in the, even in the top 9, you could see 50 points out of him, 20 goals, 30 assists, 25 and 25. I mean, that's right in his range. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get 31 goal Brandon Saad. You could, but I wouldn't expect that. But I mean, 50 points for $5 million, like a good guy that could play in a ton of situations, including your penalty kill, power play, move you up and down. He could play on all 3 top lines if you wherever you want him. Like, can do a lot of things. It's just it makes sense for them for sure.
Yeah, well,
because I don't know,
because Colorado's at the stage where they don't need guys to be overly productive and score a bunch. They need somebody who does things they don't have, because they're at that point where they
like stopping the puck.
Right. They need somebody who can get them over the hump. They're filling a hole, like filling something they need. He doesn't need to be a star. He doesn't need to put up 30 goals. He doesn't need to score 60 points. He just needs to be Brandon Saad, and it instantly makes them better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, could he have been that missing ingredient with them and the Dallas Stars? 100%.
Yeah.
100%. If Brandon Saad is playing, I mean,
he's built for the playoffs.
Right.
That's the guy who goes to the net, mucks it up in the corners. I mean, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily like the trade. And I'm really not liking, the 1.8 million or whatever the cost savings is. I mean, that's, I don't know if we're actually doing a rebuild or whatever you want, whatever brush you want to paint this whole Chicago Blackhawks debacle with right now. I'm certainly not impressed with the cost savings out of this deal.
And
it's one of those, if you're dumping salary, dump salary.
Right. And
that's where I am frustrated.
Go ahead, Sean. I'm going to finish after you. Go ahead, Sean.
You should take draft picks back then if you're dumping salary, right? You don't want anything at the NHL level.
And when you need to dump salary, you dump those albatross salaries. You dump big salaries. Right. You make room. You don't just basically gain $800,000 for one season. I mean, these guys are both going to be free agents at the end of the year. What have you gained? You've gained $800,000 for this season only. That's what you've gained, because Brandon Saad was going to be coming off the record. You could have, re-signed him or whatever, maybe for $4 million or $3.5 million, possibly. He might take a little bit of a cut, based on his production and whatever the market is now. So you're not really opening yourself up for anything in the future. You're getting rid of a guy you probably could have gotten rid of at the trade deadline anyway, and gotten this little back for him at the trade deadline anyway. And it makes you a worse team on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're moving salary, why aren't you moving Alex DeBrincat and his $6.4 million for the next 3 years?
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
that
like-
you can just imagine the uproar about that. After
Yeah.
they trade Brandon Saad, what's going on? I mean,
No,
I
I'm just
agree.
saying.
they come at me with the knives. If
I'm just saying,
you
like-
a
agree.
brickhead hater.
I would look at trading DeBrincat. I really would have, and I don't know if they'll trade him now, but I would have looked at it because he's if he's not scoring, he ain't worth $6.4 million or anything close to it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Who's gonna come back? Like, what two-way forwards do they have anymore?
I mean, Craig Smith
Right.
just signed what, $3 million for 3 years in Boston.
And he's 31.
That is a hard-nosed hockey player
Mhm.
who can
Yeah.
pump goals in the net. You put him with Coyle, maybe he's not the best mix for Krejci or any of those guys, but he is going to be with a cast right now where he's going to pump in a ton of goals. And I saw that contract and I look at DeBrincat and I go, oh my God, that guy is half the price of Alex DeBrincat right now.
Yeah, and he scored more goals.
And
Not too
everyone's saying,
good,
well,
man.
trade DeBrincat, but who the hell would be a taker for DeBrincat right now?
I think because of his youth, I think you could get a decent haul
Yeah.
for him. And
Yeah.
and it's not, I don't want this framed as like because I'm the DeBrincat quote unquote DeBrincat hater.
Yeah.
It's like he, because I was not totally disappointed in the contract at the time. He'd come off a 40-goal season and like, okay, you know what? He kind of earned it at that point. But when the year you're about to go into this big deal that you signed a year too early, right, John?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Talked
Yeah.
about this before.
Classic Stan Bowman right there.
Yeah, a year too early. Then you come around and he scores only 18 goals. He's got, and I look back on it like in the last 23 months, including COVID and all that stuff. But the last 23 months, which is part of all of last season and in March of the season previous, he has 23 goals in 23 months. That's not a $6.5 million player. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Not even close.
To a guy who's playing probably on your third line at this point in time, even with the team the way it's structured right now.
Yeah.
Like you can't hang on to
I
that.
think we can all agree that was a calculated error by Stan Bowman. I mean, I don't
another one. Yes.
Yeah.
The
another
list, like list
Another
keeps
one.
growing.
Yeah.
Like Stan thinks he's going out there and I'm going to teach everyone. I'm going to go sign this guy right away. I'm going to lock him down at this low rate.
I know. He always does that.
Yeah. He
At
did
least
it with
they give him
Artem
a no movement
Anisimov.
clause.
Yeah. He did it with Artem Anisimov before you
Yep.
even saw him skate on the ice with the Blackhawks. And then now he's,
Right.
with Alex DeBrincat, he did it a whole year early and it bit him in the butt. Like, I can't talk too much about that because like we were like, hey, lock him up,
Yeah.
because it looked like he was going to be on the trajectory to maybe be a 40-goal scorer every year because he had increased every year. But now he's coming down. He looks like he's lost in the playoffs. He was invisible. Like maybe he's showing what is true, and he's not going to be that player that's going to carry that team and make the team better. He's a complimentary scorer,
Mhm.
maybe a middle six scorer. And that's what he is. That's what Alex DeBrincat is. He's a middle six scorer. He's a one-trick pony, and he could score. When he can find a spot, he can score, and he's got a good shot. But then Kubalik comes in, a bigger version of him, who could play that playoff hockey, and he showed it with that first game that he played, or that game that he played with against Edmonton, where he was just all over the place. When Alex DeBrincat was nowhere to be found. This guy is he seems like he's more of a playoff performer. He's making half of what Alex DeBrincat's going to make.
Right.
And
Right.
Kubalik can be, you could put him on the point at the power play because he's got a cannon of a shot. DeBrincat, you have to put him you have to like set him down in the perfect spot in the slot, wide open with the stick cocked and ready to go. And he will score from there. But if you can't get him there
Yeah.
and no one can set him up there, he's not doing it.
Yeah, neither one of them is going to really get their own shot very much. But I will say this, one of the things I love about Kubalik is the way he moves around and tries to get himself in position for the pass. He's just a lot more active and dynamic than DeBrincat is. And you're right. You can put him on the point too. To me, between the two of them, I mean, Kubalik is a much more valuable player. And, but I think Bowman loves DeBrincat, and Bowman loves, once he's committed to a guy, it's very, very hard to get him to go the other way. It takes a long time. I mean, David Rundblad was around for 3 years? I mean,
My boy or David Rundblad.
yeah.
That was a
But
mistake.
yeah, I hear
We
you.
lost Andy. Maybe he'll jump back on.
I hope so.
Maybe he's
Yeah.
not a David Rundblad fan.
Hey, I take offense to that.
I know.
I'm the only guy in Chicago that owns a David Rundblad Blackhawks jersey. I can guarantee that, though.
A legitimate David Rundblad jersey. Let's be honest.
A legitimate one.
Not
yes.
a Hong Kong classic.
Not a Hong Kong classic. There's the end. He's back.
Sorry.
I knew we lost you for a second. We knew you'd jump
Sorry,
back in.
I have young kids.
No, I get it. I get it. My kids are standing right here. So
I don't. The Kubali contract, I'm happy about. I think most people should be, and that's probably what they should have done to Brinkett. I mean, but to be able to do a 2-year bridge deal where you have the right structure in place, and he's an RFA after a couple of years. I mean, that's huge, and I was really excited about that. I was totally fine with them walking away from Crow, and the Saad trade comes, and everyone just goes, "Oh my God, do we really know what we're doing here?"
I think we've been asking that question for a while.
Yeah.
Let me throw this back at you guys. Looking, and I don't know if you have access to it. I might have to send you the link to it. But looking at what's out there on the market right now, they're going to have a little bit of cap space, and I don't know why Stan would hang on to it. To be honest with you, so maybe he's planning on going out in the market and picking up a starting goalie that will play in front of Malcolm Subban, which
that's what I'm hoping.
I mean, because honestly, why they brought Malcolm Subban back, I don't understand. Because Colin Delia is fine too. I mean, he could back up. He's not going to do any. Malcolm Subban is not going to do any more than Colin Delia would have done back there. Period. He just won't. So,
at this point, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what do we think? Do we think the Blackhawks are going to go out there and try to sign a semi-significant player, maybe a starting goalie, because they're not going to go out and sign like a wing or anything like that. They're not going to have the money for that. But do we think that they're going to go out there and try and grab another goalie? If we do, some ideas. I think
they might try to grab another goalie. I don't think there's anything on the free agent market necessarily that isn't just a patch. But I think I could see them trading. And it's really interesting because another team that's been moving a lot of guys out and kind of inexplicably is the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they are really Pardon me?
I said drink. JJ mentioned the Blue Jackets. Drink.
Well,
go ahead.
But they have. I mean, they've been moving a lot of guys, and they have 2 goalies. The rumor was heating up again today around teams making some runs at Korpisalo because. I mean, there's 2 goalies there. There's Merzlikins and Korpisalo, both of whom played well enough to be a number 1 last year. And it could well be that the Jackets, are going to try to capitalize on one or the other. Jackets also have some younger goalie prospects in the system, including another guy out of Latvia, where Merzlikins is from. I forget his name, and don't ask me to pronounce it even if I knew
Vini Villa.
That dude.
Yeah.
But so they signed him to a 2-way deal, which generally means he's going to be in the minors, but you never know. They could pull him in as the backup to either Merzlikins or, and I will also tell you that the owner of the Blue Jackets just got a new dog and named him Elvis. So a little bit of inside scoop there. But
there you go.
So I have a feeling, I just have a feeling that, and remember, the Blackhawks allegedly tried to make a move on Matt Murray via trade less than a week ago. So if they did that with a goalie like Murray, why
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, me too. But I'm just saying, if that's the way they were looking to do a trade for a young guy with number 1 experience, regardless of how you feel about Murray, then I don't see why they wouldn't necessarily still be trying to pursue that. And then you got the Blue Jackets, who are rumored to be listening to offers on one of their 2 plausible number 1s. And Stan and Jarmo do a lot of business together. So you never know. I could definitely see that still happening, because if they are trying to be competitive while rebuilding, as we suspect they are, then going in with Malcolm Subban as your number 1 goalie is not the way to do that. Is not the way to do the competitive part.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
well,
right. That's the maddening thing. If you're doing a quote unquote soft rebuild where you're moving out
soft. Right. This is not soft anymore.
Right. But
yeah,
if you're doing that, you why would you not bring in a goalie? Like, you have to bring in the Blackhawks give up more shots than anybody else in the NHL. So you have to have somebody to stop the puck. If not, like you guys said, Malcolm Subban's not going to do us anything. And I think the Blackhawks have been trying to identify or to fill the goalie position. I mean, there was the goalie, was it the Islanders goalie prospect they were supposedly they had a deal done for, and then it fell apart.
Sorokin.
You're right. And so that they've been looking at this for a while. So why wouldn't you go get one of Columbus's goalies and then you just roll with him and Subban? Why not?
Well, what I wrote when they let Crow go, and I had two scenarios that I thought that seemed to make sense for me. One was Tomas Greiss to come in.
Mhm.
He's not going to be super expensive. He's going to keep it respectable. You could sign him to a 2-year deal. He's gone in 2 years. If you have if you've started your goalie, depth or development on a new goalie, maybe the second round pick, Camiso this year.
Yeah.
Maybe you're getting in 2 years. Maybe you're getting to that point where you might introduce him to the pro ranks, maybe be it AHL. But so maybe my other one was, and I thought this just made too much sense because the more at first I was like no, but then when I really sat down and I analyzed it and I looked at it, Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas. Vegas is dying to get rid of him. The reports were before the draft that they were willing to give up a second round pick, half of Marc-Andre Fleury's salary they were going to retain, and they were going to basically take just about anything you gave them. Give them whoever, Matt Tompkins. Give them
my guy.
Give them Matt Tompkins. Give them someone. I mean, they do have guys that they could just give away. They have Brad Morrison, for Christ's sake. Give them a couple guys or a guy. Say, give them Matt Tompkins. Give them a 7th round draft pick. Take Marc-Andre Fleury for 2 years. Take a free second round draft pick. You know how much Stan Bowman loves his second round draft picks.
He does.
You get a free second round draft pick next year, and you're getting Marc-Andre Fleury at a reasonable clip, and you get rid of a little bit of the riff-raff garbage, in the system that's just not developing, that you're not going to do much with. And you're doing them a favor. They kind of owe you a favor, honestly, for the way that, Stan gave them Robin Leonard for that second round pick. It seems to make a lot of sense to me if they're willing to take something like that. Or even someone even a little more significant, a David Kampf or whatever, I don't care. Give him David Kampf in a 7th round draft pick. Do that. Get Marc-Andre Fleury in here. You'll sell a couple of jerseys. It's not going to give you the Stanley Cup. It's not going to get you into the playoffs, but it will stop the puck. The guy's a veteran. He's a nice presence to have around the younger goalies. It seems to make a lot of sense. Also, Malcolm Subban played with Marc-Andre Fleury for a couple of years. If you're going to have, if you have Subban as your backup and this is what you're committing to for this year, and I don't like it, but if that's what you're committing to, then sure, get his buddy in here to play. I mean, I'm not expecting you to make anything any better, but you do get a second round draft pick for free out of it.
But I think that I'm hoping that they're biding their time on that. I totally agree. Pietrangelo is going down there tomorrow.
He was down there today.
Yeah, he was there today.
So that's today, not tomorrow. It's today. So, I mean, they are going to be dying for his services. And after Torrey Krug signed in St. Louis for that godforsaken deal that St. Louis will regret in about 3 years, which is hysterical to me. But at the same time, he's asking for $8-9 million a year, and if that's the case, and they're going to need to unload.
He's not going to get that. Yeah, there's always getting.
He's not going to get that number one, but the other part of that is they might be in a position where they need to unload Flower, where the return and the terms around it are going to be very, very favorable for Stan in Chicago. Now, will Stan find a way to screw it up? Probably, but I like that play. I like that play.
So if there was a rumor that Vegas was actually going to sweeten the deal if the team trading for Fleury would or that Vegas would swallow half the salary, and then Vegas would throw in a second round pick. That all makes sense. But here's the thing that doesn't make sense. Unless you believe that his tutelage can make Malcolm Subban a legitimate number one, all you're doing then, you may as well sign Craig Anderson or Corey Schneider or whoever, because all you're doing then is again, a veteran patch that is meant to, help the Hawks maybe have a whiff of the playoffs this year and start the meatball parade again. And I oppose it. I would rather go with Scott Foster and whoever they have in the AHL,
Yeah.
and just go toward full on rebuilding. That's the problem I have with the Fleury thing. And let's face it, Fleury didn't do much tutoring Malcolm Subban in Vegas. Why would he do any better in Chicago?
I'm not saying that's what he's going to do. I'm just saying you're getting a free pick out of this. Getting rid of some of your other garbage on your roster. You get a free second round pick rather than signing a guy that's an unrestricted free agent. Like, okay,
I mean,
you know what? At least it's
truthfully,
working towards something in the future.
I wouldn't do it for anything less than if a first is coming as part of that package.
Do you think that as they get more desperate, they're going to increase their sweetener?
They're going to have to.
Yeah, right. If they're going to
because they have to be cap compliant for day one of the season.
The only way that I would hope that the Hawks would do it is if they reach that point where that sweetener is something you cannot walk away from. And it needs to be in the form of a first round pick.
A first round pick. And
I could take a second.
Pick.
I could take it early. I could take a second too. It doesn't even have to be early. I could be all right with a second.
Maybe, but
a second this year and a second next year or something. Two.
With all these young D, I still firmly believe that I want to see the trial by fire. I want to see who can play and who can't. You know,
that's fine. Just have a legitimate. If you're going to do that, that's fine. But don't have Malcolm Subban stopping the puck. How is that going to destroy?
What exactly is wrong with that ultimately?
Well, okay, so when if you make mistakes in the NHL, Corey Crawford covered up a lot of flaws last year.
Right.
So does Robin Leonard.
Right.
Right.
So, but if you're going to have Malcolm Subban with your young defenseman, it's going to be
every time you make a mistake, the puck ends up in the back of the net. That could be demoralizing to a young defenseman.
That's
but it wasn't that demoralizing for Keith and Seabrook in 2005 and 2006 when Hobby Bullen was posting a .85 save percentage.
Don't forget Craig Anderson too. No, Craig Anderson was early in that. I'm sorry.
But bottom line is they were dismal, and I think we need to see who can play D and who's willing to play D, and not being like, yeah, we got a guy back there who will bail me out every night. You know, if I need to. And I think we're stockpiling defensemen to the point where it's sink or swim. You know,
they picked four friggin' defensemen in the draft, which is ridiculous.
Well, now we got two more in the return for Saad.
Yeah.
We got all these prospects coming up. So it's like, do you really want a goalie who's going to stand on his head every single night just so you can be a fringe playoff team?
I don't even want standing on his head. I just want respectable. You know, just respectable. I'm not expecting.
I'm actually totally fine with a complete and utter embarrassment to shake.
But I think to John's point earlier, I think the budget, in order to make money, you have to be competitive. We've seen that in this town. If you're not a good team, nobody's going to go watch you.
But we don't even know if people are going to be able to go to games.
Well, eventually they will.
It's another thing altogether.
Yeah. So I mean, if this is the year to not. If you want to pick a year to not be competitive, I would forecast for this one.
Yeah, that's true.
That is okay. You got it there.
You could make a ton of money on Marc-Andre Fleury jerseys.
I mean, you don't know if you're going to get any gates. So this is the year to dump. I mean, when you think
True.
Yeah.
I don't know,
guys. I got to drop off. All
right, Johnny. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, John.
Peace out.
Bye.
We ran him off.
This is awesome.
No, I don't know. I mean, we're just talking trash here because we need to vent a little bit. So anyway,
and don't forget they still have to sign Dylan Strome.
Yeah.
Which, how much more of their salary cap's going to be taken up with that?
Well, because they qualified him, they only have to pay him the same amount that they paid him last year.
I mean, he might only get $1 million for a year. I mean, I just don't.
The problem, I don't know if it carries over, but I know he had a lot of bonuses and stuff. So he made actually over the year, his base salary was really low, but because of bonuses and stuff like that, I think he made close to $3 million. Wow. So yeah, he could make. I don't know if that has to carry over as well. I just the way it's worded.
He's in a tough spot. He really doesn't fit.
No,
in general right now. I mean, if your two centers are going to be Taves and Doc, Strome is not a third line.
No,
he's just
no. He's going to end up. He would be probably better at the third line wing.
Yeah.
And if you want to jumpstart the rebuild, you trade him.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't even know where he would fit in anywhere, honestly. I mean, I know that's a dire thing to say, but he's not fast.
No,
He's not
No.
very quick.
and he's not all that great in his own end.
Yeah, and he's just kind of okay.
Yeah, he's
You know,
kind of
and
okay.
at the end
He'll
of the
score you a
day-
goal now and then. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine if you're treading water on a Phoenix team, if that's where Phoenix is at the time, or you're, just kind of, I don't know, if you were LA or
He was
something.
the 3rd overall pick with Phoenix. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they thought more of him at the time.
Yeah, no, I
mean,
don't.
honestly, they probably thought he was Kirby Dach at the,
Yeah.
I think
Kirby Dach
when they put him on that third line, and granted his flanks were DeBrincat and this could be a whole nother conversation. When Colleton threw out a third line against Vegas of Strome, DeBrincat, and Nylander. Wow. First of all, I mean, there's your shutdown line. But I mean, it's very. He's not strong enough in his own zone. He's not fast enough. He's not good enough in the dot. And you have Taves and you have Doc as your first 2 centers. I don't know what you do with the guy, personally.
Yeah, I don't either. This team is a bunch of misfit toys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And not like the Oakland A's of 2001 or Moneyball era.
Yeah.
No, they're it's the land of misfit toys out there. It's just a bunch of random pieces, and you got to just like lay them out on the table and be like, what do I make of this? And that's all this is going to end up being.
Can these 2 defensemen that the Blackhawks acquired play Jeremy Colleton's system that we get to see for like 8 days and then it switches, or
who knows? We don't know.
We don't even know.
We don't know.
We don't know what his system is. They don't play long enough.
Yeah. I mean, still, you got all veteran defensemen. You got no room for Ian Mitchell still. Now you got more people in the way.
Yeah.
What do you do with? You got Nick Sealer in there. Why? I don't know. They had to have him. They had to pick him up off waivers. Now they got him for. Yeah, I mean, they've got a whole bunch of nonsense in there. It's a whole bunch of garbage all cobbled together, and they're just like, just throw everyone in there. Just throw a bunch of shit on the wall and see what actually sticks together, and that's how this is going to end up being.
It's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah.
And they have and they're not gonna have any forwards. Are they counting on Alex DeBrincat coming back and scoring 35, 40 goals? Maybe, but can we be assured that that's going to happen? No.
I don't know. And with all these moves, I mean, I don't know. And I'm totally speculating when I say this, but it's, you dumb Crow and Saad in 1 week, and it's to, guys like, Keith and Taves and Kane. Is it kind of like, guys, if you want to waive your clauses, go right ahead, because now's the time. I mean, if you're one of those guys right now, you can't honestly look at the team and be like, we can still win here.
No, right.
No, you can't.
You can't do it.
Anyone with any kind of objective eyes on this can look at this and see that team's not good. They've gotten considerably worse over the past week and a half, and they don't really have any prospects going forward.
Right.
And I don't include Seabrook in that conversation because he's immovable, but
it's a player and a contract.
Right. I think Keith is probably the most likely to move sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you'd have to eat salary on Taves.
Oh, big
if
time.
you were to try and get rid of him.
Yeah.
You'd have to eat at least $3, maybe $4 million of his deal for a team, because it's going to be a team that's a contender that's not going to be able to give up $10 million for Jonathan Taves for 3 years.
Right.
They may be able to give up 6.5.
Right.
Not 10 for sure. So Patrick Kane, you can get value for, but you better damn well get value for him. Because if if they go out there and, like I was joking about, Rasmus Ristolainen, a draft pick or something like that, well, what the hell are we even doing?
Right.
You got to use your assets and get as much as you possibly can. Don't just fold up the tent and be like, oh, all I can get is Zadorov and Lindholm for Brandon Saad, who's one of the better players on your team.
I mean, in a regular NHL season, as far as like with 80 games plus, Patrick Kane, as of today, is still an 100-point guy. Yeah, he is.
Even on a bad team.
He is.
Especially on a bad team.
And when he's proven it on a bad team. So it's like, but it's one of those, if he waived a clause, like, you got to get the return on that. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Right, because it's going to be known as you traded Patrick Kane, a Hall of Fame player, and you didn't get value back.
Right.
Like you have to get value. Like if you, I'll go to another sport. So baseball, like when the Boston Red Sox traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers,
Oh,
they got several guys that could play, and they got a guy that could play now. Was it getting the best value for him? Probably not. But they got something that was going to be able to be useful for the future because they're rebuilding. That's what you got to get for Patrick Kane. You got to get one or two star prospects that'll set you up for the future, and then other pieces that'll complement that. Because if you don't, you just wasted your franchise, the best player you've ever had.
Yeah.
And
I'm getting way ahead right now, but I mean, I would love to, like, if a Tuukka Rask doesn't return to Boston next year and just decides to retire or God knows what, and that $7 million is on the shelf, send Kane to Boston, while they still got, some tread on the tires and try to make a run for it. And what could you get in return?
Yeah.
I'm only now, keep in mind, I'm saying that because I live out here and that's all I hear about is the Boston Bruins. So, I mean, there's a number of suitors for Patrick Kane, if Patrick Kane was traded, I would cry for days. I would be mortally wounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all would be. I mean, he is my favorite player in the history of the Chicago Blackhawks, and that includes when I was 6 years old watching Dennis Savard. But I just, unfortunately, I think we're just at that point right now where the era is over. It's over. It's gone.
Yeah, the window is totally closed.
It's been closed for a couple of years, I think.
And
it's been closed for a while.
Like when you make reference to Boston, like Boston had a window, they retooled, and now they're back in another window. The Hawks never retooled.
No.
They stayed stagnant and then started going like 15. Right. Their defense wasn't as good. Like their puck possession, their defense, it was a miracle they wanted 15. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
It was Joe
Quenneville's best job. That was his Hall of Fame
greatest season ever. And
rode 4D the whole time.
The playoffs
only series, 3 of them were decent. Yeah.
34 0-0 when leading after the second period.
He totally outcoached Bruce Boudreau in that Western Conference Finals, especially Game 7, where he literally took Kane and Taves off the ice every time Kane off the ice every time Kessler was on the ice. He just kept those. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then you looked at the numbers. Their puck possession was middle of the road, and ever since then, it's slowly declined. And the amount of shots they've given up has gone up. You can't win in the NHL like that. Like they peaked and it was over.
Well, they've gone 2 years where they've given up the most shots in the NHL.
Yeah, and they've given up the most 50 plus shots consecutively. I think they gave up 2 50-shot games in a row. I think they gave them 61 game. It's you can't. It's not juniors hockey where you win every game 8-7.
No,
it's not. When they were good,
and
their
if you
defense
try to do that, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
No.
So, well, I mean, I guess more to come, huh? Right?
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be more moves on the horizon. There has to be. Yeah,
they got to start. They got to start really. They've made a couple of moves now, and none of them have helped the future really. And they got to start really looking and getting something for the future. Because if they don't, when Stan Bowman gets fired, this organization is going to be really in trouble when some other new GM has to come in and try to make sense of what's left, which isn't a whole lot of anything. So.
Because you've got 3 years left of Kane and Taves. So if you're going to get
and Keith,
right, every year you don't trade them, their value goes down. Every year.
Yeah.
Because if you trade Patrick Kane in the last year of his deal, you're not going to get nearly the return you would this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's up to them. It's up to the player.
Right, because Stan gave out.
He could come right in and be like, I love Chicago. Like, I love living here. I love my lifestyle. Good luck. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. You gave me this contract. I'm going to play it out.
He legally has every right to say that.
Yep.
Just like Brent Seabrook.
Right. And there's literally, if you look at there's no other money like on the books aside from Alex DeBrincat. There's no significant money on the books.
No.
Because Calvin DeHaan, nobody's going to take. Are you trading Connor Murphy? I mean, what does that really get you? Nothing.
Zero.
it's like getting rid of Alimata.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And now that, like teams that, like Toronto have gone out at the free agent market and pick guys up, that's less destinations that are desperate to get defensemen and that are competent. It's not going to get any easier.
no,
That's for sure.
no.
So, all right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah, I got a bolt. Awesome to see you guys and so much fun working.
Thanks for joining us, man. Well, I'm sure it looks like we're going to be doing this again probably pretty soon. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll be ripping our hair out or yelling about what happened.
Probably a lot of that, both of it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Yeah, have a great holiday weekend. Take care.
I'm going to wrap this thing up, so you can jump off if you want.
Thank you.
See you, Andy.
All right. So thanks everyone for, coming on and watching. I know I see a couple people out there that came out and watched. I'm going to release this as a podcast as well. You can find all of our comprehensive content on www.the-rink.com. You can see the piece that I wrote about the trade. You could see stuff that happened with the draft, all that other stuff. Follow all the Rink accounts at the Rink Official, at the Rink Shy, at the Rinkcast, and then all of our other divisions. Aaron's going to be putting out a podcast where I'm going to kind of talk about this trade. So look for the Colorado Rinkcast. This is the Chicago Rinkcast, by the way. There's two. I got go over to puckhockey.com. Get yourself, you right here, right there. Puckhockey.com.
I've got the sweatshirt and the hat. It's awesome.
Yeah. Go over there. Andy was just telling me beforehand. He went over there and he got himself a baseball shirt. I got one of those too. It's got the little Rink Rat logo that's over here, right there. Get the little Rink Rat logo on there as well. Go over there. Use the discount code The Rink. Even if you don't buy something from the Rink collection, they've got all the cool stuff: Slayer, Anthrax, all that other junk. A lot of good thrash bands over there. Ministry, Chicago fans. Ministry. I mean, what more Blackhawks? What melds metal and Blackhawks together better than Ministry? So that's going on. Head over, rate and review us on the iTunes. Subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. All that good stuff. You got anything last you want to say, Sean?
Look for there's going to be some Indy Fuel stuff coming out. There's been a lot of moves this offseason, and we're going to have some more Indy Fuel stuff coming up because the ECHL is full steam ahead in December.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that. At Jaeckel, at Andy Campbell 16. Those are the two other guys that joined us. Aaron Goldschmidt joined, but he was just typing in the background, typing us nasty messages. But he's the one who runs the Rink Colorado, and he's Leighton the Goldie also on Twitter. So I think that's all of it. So with all of that being said, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to download, watch, listen, and support us. Until next episode, see you on the rink.